All right, everybody, it's the spoiler-heavy episode for She-Hulk, Episode 2. Nice to see you again. Oh, you're wearing the same shirt you did for the other ones. Yeah, because I watched 1 through 4 at the same time, and I put out my reaction videos as soon as I watch them, and then I put out my spoiler reviews. Or actually, I put out my 1 through 4 non-spoiler first. Or something like that. Anyway, if you're brand new to the channel, and you're checking out this episode, and you want to see what the hell I was going to talk about, you're just looking for a She-Hulk episode spoilers. Well, you found mine, so subscribe to it. Get to 70,000 subscribers. We're going to go on tour. Comedy show, our long podcast, just telling jokes, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I got to tell you, man, I'm really enjoying this show. Shows are short. You got to deal with that. I'm okay with that, though, it being as short as it is, to be honest. I'm you know, when it comes to Star Wars and Marvel, sometimes like, they're so short, the 32-minute episodes, and I think a lot of that time it's very true. I think Star Wars is very true. Could be longer. This show is built like an episode, as a lot of people have been mentioning, Ally McBeal, these other shows, and this one's like 28 minutes to 32, but it's got a story, and it tells you right away. This show, from the second it starts on episode 1, it tells you exactly what it wants to be. It really does. It tells you, and it never changes the tone. And my biggest criticism with the MCU recently was that it's just like this abusive amount of humor that is just, let's go joke first. As long as they're laughing, that's the most important thing. And Thor: Love and Thunder is a big example of that, right? And that's what I was worried about with this. I was worried it's going to be too jokey, and everyone's like, well, it's a comedy. It's a comedy. And I'm like, but if the comedy is going to take precedent over the actual story and the storytelling inside the MCU, why am I getting invested? And that is certainly not the case. The writing on this show is spectacular. One of the best written MCU shows so far, because it knows the balance. It knows how to, and what I really love about it is that it takes the MCU and things that we've known about the MCU, the lore itself, and makes it relevant to the story. And that's very clear in this particular episode, right? So when we start out, and Jen is basically walking in, and they wanted to go in as She-Hulk, and she's getting this big hero's welcome in the bar. And I thought it's like, okay, she's getting honored for it, and she's trying to figure it out. The music in this show is really good, by the way. And I love that Jennifer Walters is basically trying to figure out how to balance being a superhero. She gets fired, while she's in the bar. Boss comes over to her and says, hey, listen, what you did was good, but we can't do that and get, we lost the case because of what you did, and we get it. You should have did it, but we can't do it again, so you're fired. And then she keeps trying to get jobs, and she can't get jobs. So she's like looking up these little side jobs. And I'll tell you what I'm most excited about in this whole thing that I hope everybody else is going to be talking about. Cousin Larry is back, everybody. Cousin Larry from Perfect Strangers. And he plays her dad, and he's really good in it. And I loved the scene of the two of them at the end of the dinner scene where he's like, because they're at, and that's what I was talking about, how they take the lore of the MCU. He's talking about Hawkeye and asking questions that we all ask. What's he do with his arrows afterwards? He just leave them laying around the city? I thought it was a great moment. But he says, come here, I gotta talk to you. How are you feeling? And I love they're making the character of Jennifer Walters so specific. She has these little nuances that she does, and it's consistent already in 2 episodes where she's, and she calls Bruce in this one to tell her that she's basically going to take this job, jumping down the line. But it's consistent with what she's been doing. She talks. She reminds me of my 10-year-old. My 10-year-old just is just talks and has all this stuff to say and is very intelligent and is ready to have all these moments, and you're ready to say something else. She's like, yeah, but wait. And she keeps on going. And it's a character trait that is consistent throughout the first 2 episodes. And that's what I'm saying with the writing. They're writing so well for Tatiana Maslany, who is just absolutely crushing this role. And they have like these, and the way that they don't goof on the MCU, the way that I felt like I hate to keep crapping on Love and Thunder, but like I felt Love and Thunder sometimes was like a spoof, like basically making fun of the MCU. It seemed like a lot of the times, in my opinion. But in this, they're paying honor to it with comedy involved, and that's all I was looking for. You know, like comedy. I love comedy when it's balanced out, and this is balanced out. And so what keeps on going on in this show, this episode anyway, is that we start to get into the LA base. You know, she gets offered the job after she's bummed by basically the people that she almost beat in that case, and they were impressed by it. And they go, well, we want you to defend these creeps now. And it's superhero division, but you got to She-Hulk it up. And so you see these people, they're like, what the hell is going on here? Now this clip is from this shot that you're looking at here. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, my apologies. But this clip, the CGI isn't as good, and that's because it's from the trailer. I think the CGI has gotten significantly better, by the way. This guy, who is the boss, no, not Tim Roth, the boss, it is Holloway is the character's name, is doing a really stellar job as well. Gives the job on the other side to GLK and H, and it's the Superhuman Law Division is now where she's working. And she's got to represent Abomination. What a great scene this is with the haikus and everything. To this is what I'm talking about. There are some great jokes inside of this and some funny moments where he's talking about haikus and these things. And it reminded me of this scene, by the way, when he presents his case of what he's talking about with her, why she should rep him. And he's like, I was going after the bad guy. They told me to go after the bad guy. So I was going after the bad guy. And then they said, hey, take some super serum. The government did. And that's exactly what I did. And then this guy's the hero. And it all reminded me of like when Johnny was trying to make the case that Daniel was the bad guy in Karate Kid. And she's like, oh, you're making a lot of sense here. And he did. He was making sense. She's like, we also went through Harlem and started breaking stuff up. And then to talk about how they really tie in the MCU and have a real meta joke, but it's still relevant to the story, is when she's on the phone with Bruce, and he's like, yeah, don't worry about that. I'm literally a different person. What a clever and fun and great joke to acknowledge the Ed Norton, Mark Ruffalo transfer, and I thought it was so smart, and I was like, oh, I love that. I really do. And again, if you're brand new to this channel, you're like, oh, this guy loves this show, man. Okay, he loves him. People who watch my channel and watch my show have to be shocked because I was not looking forward to this show. It's like, okay, this is probably just going to be one of those throwaway shows. I have to be honest. The way that I've been doing this show lately, I mean, these reviews, I have 4 episodes. So I watched it. I did everything because I wanted to be fresh. I don't want to watch them all in a block because I want to do them first. And as much as I'm loving doing this right now and talking about it, I want to start watching the next episode. So, but I'm going to keep going on because that's what you guys are here for. All right. So she decides to take him, and she decides to represent him. She calls Bruce. She does the whole thing. Now, this scene even at the end, which is the way they played it in, the way that they're blending everything in with the MCU, to now they're relating it, not only do they relate it to the Incredible Hulk and the stuff that they did with in the other episode where they talk about Tony and Cap and just playing into the whole MCU and how it's just, you're rewarded basically for all the stuff that you've watched in the past. They do this thing now for the new stuff in the new phase, and they because I started thinking about it when she's like, wait a minute, Blonsky's in here and she's talking to him, but we saw him in Shang-Chi, like when fighting in the beginning. When does that take place? Is that a different? And then they show it at the end that he's fighting underground. He broke out of prison, and how did he do it? And you're like, oh, it's awesome. That's so great. And then you play into the post scene. There's a post-credit scene, it seems like, in every episode thus far anyway, because at the end you get Cousin Larry again talking to bringing She-Hulk around. And she's helping him around the house and doing all these chores and carrying things around, lifting the car, and doing all that. So really digging this show. The reason I think the thing I love the most about the show, the 2 things I love the most are, as I thought, Tatiana Maslany. Like, she's the reason I wanted to watch the show in the first place. I'm a massive fan of her in general, but she's doing exactly what I thought she would and then some. And the reason why she's doing as good as she is because of how good the writing is. The writing on this show, I think this is, as much as Loki's still my favorite TV show and out of the Marvel, and I don't have enough to base whether or not this is going to be my favorite. There's a lot of episodes yet, but I can tell you what I've seen so far in the first 2 comparison to the other episodes. This is easily, for me anyway, the best written show that they've had so far. It's just written really well, so in sync of a show that knows exactly what it wants to be. So that's 2 episodes in. We'll see. Any show can start great and fall, and any show can get better and better and better. What will this show do? I'm curious. What do you guys think? I want to know. Let me know in the comments and tell me exactly what you're thinking of the show so far. And again, if you're brand new to the show, let's subscribe. Let's get that road to 70,000. Let's get it. I would love to get this thing to 100,000 by the end of the year, but I think you all know probably going to have to aim for 70 right now. But that's okay. Let's do it together. So comment, share. If you haven't done this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found, make sure that you do that. So thank you guys for joining me here. I'll be back for episode 3 and 4. There's 1 through 4. I have a non-spoiler up already, so you can check that out. But anyway, it's She-Hulk. That's episode 2. See you soon.